There is a fruit sitting on your counter right now that has funded cartels, collapsed rivers, erased forests older than most nations, and displaced indigenous farmers from land their ancestors have tended for 10,000 years. Nobody told you that when they handed you the guacamole. Every generation has a food it believes it discovered, a food it believes is new, clean, progressive, a symbol of its own good taste. The avocado is the great symbol of this era, photographed 10 million times a day, printed on tote bags, sliced beside poached eggs in cities that have never grown a single edible thing. But the avocado was not discovered. It was taken, repackaged, handed back to you at $4 a piece, stripped of the name it carried for millennia, stripped of the people who first understood it, stripped of the ecology that once held it in balance. What you are holding is not a wellness food. It is the end of a very long story, and most of that story involves blood. This is Ancient Food Files, a channel built for the knowledge that was buried, erased, or quietly allowed to disappear. We document what the modern world forgot to preserve. If that matters to you, subscribe. Not for the algorithm, for the archive, because some things only survive if someone chooses to remember them. Now, let us go back. The Nahuatl word is aguacatl. The people of Mesoamerica, the Aztec, the Maya, the civilizations that predate both, had been cultivating and consuming this fruit for at least 10,000 years before a single European set foot in the Americas. Archaeologists have found avocado seeds in the Tehuacan Valley of Mexico dating to 5000 BCE. Some evidence suggests wild consumption going back to 8000 BCE. This is not a recent superfood. This is one of the oldest cultivated plants in the Western Hemisphere. The Aztecs understood it as more than food. The avocado tree, tall, broad, generous, was associated with fertility, abundance, and the sustaining power of the earth. It grew in the volcanic soil of the highland valleys, in the wet forests of the Sierra Madre, in the coastal lowlands where the heat pressed close. It asked for little, it gave back enormously. A single mature tree could produce hundreds of fruits in a season. The fat inside, dense, smooth, unlike anything else in the plant kingdom, provided calories that sustained communities through dry seasons and lean years. The Aztecs did not merely eat avocados, they built food systems around them. They grafted trees, they cultivated specific varieties. They understood that the creamy interior could sustain a nursing mother, fortify a warrior, feed a child through its first years of life. This was not superstition. This was 10,000 years of empirical knowledge accumulated through careful generational observation. The fruit itself is, biologically speaking, a masterpiece of evolutionary patience. The avocado belongs to the laurel family, ancient, slow, deeply rooted. Its fat content is unlike almost any other fruit on Earth. Where most fruits offer sugar as their primary caloric offer, the avocado offers fat, monounsaturated fat, the same kind found in olive oil, dense with oleic acid, folate, potassium, vitamins K, C, B5, B6. A single fruit contains more potassium than a banana. It digests slowly, feeds the body at length, sustains energy across hours rather than minutes. The tree itself is almost absurdly resilient. Once established, it can live for centuries. Some old-growth avocado trees in Mexico are believed to be over 400 years old, still producing fruit, still standing in soil that has never known a synthetic fertilizer. The root system reaches deep. The canopy spreads wide and shades the soil below, protecting it from erosion, retaining moisture across dry months. What cannot be said, what the modern industry does not want examined, is that the traditional avocado was not one thing. There were hundreds of varieties, wild types, cultivated types, hybrids that specific communities had developed across generations. Some were small and black, some were enormous and pale green, some ripened in summer, Some carried fruit through the coldest months. This diversity was a form of insurance, a hedge against blight, drought, shifting seasons. The forest did not plant monocultures, neither did the people who lived within it. The Spanish arrived in the early 1500s and took note. Martín Fernández de Enciso wrote of the fruit in 1519. He found it remarkable, described the flesh as butter-like, the taste extraordinary. The conquistadors ate them. They understood their value, but they did not try to export them, not at first. The fruit bruised, it ripened fast. It could not survive the Atlantic crossing in any meaningful form. What the Spanish did instead was more insidious. They disrupted the agricultural systems that had sustained avocado cultivation for millennia. They forced indigenous communities into labor systems that took men away from their fields. They introduced cattle, which compacted and degraded the volcanic soils where avocado trees thrived. They demanded tribute and maize and other storable grains, pushing communities toward monoculture, whether they chose it or not. The avocado did not disappear during the colonial period, but its place, its cultural centrality, its connection to indigenous food sovereignty began a long, slow erosion. By the 19th century, the fruit had spread into California on the backs of Franciscan missionaries and Mexican farmers. In 1871, a Californian horticulturist named R.B. Ord planted the first recorded avocado trees in the United States, in Santa Barbara, using trees sourced from Mexico. The fruit was novel, curious, mildly fashionable among the wealthy. It was called the alligator pear. It did not take hold commercially. The varieties available were inconsistent, the flavor varied. The industry could not standardize it. And then, in 1926, a mail carrier from Whittier, California, named Rudolf Haas, planted a seedling in his backyard. That seedling became the Haas avocado. Dark-skinned, creamy, consistent, with a long shelf life relative to other varieties. The Haas patent was granted in 1935, and that single decision, to patent a single variety, to organize an entire global industry around one genetic lineage, set in motion everything that followed. Nature does not wait for permission to be relevant again. The old varieties are still there, carrying within them 10,000 years of adaptive intelligence. The soil that supported them, where it has not been entirely exhausted, still holds the memory of what grew in it. The trees that remain, the ones that survived the clearing, stand without urgency. They have been here longer than the market that tried to reduce them to a single profitable type. They will likely be here longer than the market itself. The body count attached to the most photographed fruit of this era is real. The cleared forests are real. The dried rivers are real. The farmers who were taxed and threatened and pushed from their land are real. The varieties that disappeared because they could not be owned are real. What is also real is the patience of seeds, the patience of soil, the knowledge that waits quietly in the hands of people who were never consulted about the system that replaced what they knew. The avocado existed before the brand. It will exist after it. The question is whether the knowledge that sustained it will still be alive when it is needed again. If you believe that question matters, subscribe to Ancient Food Files, because the archive only holds what someone chooses to place inside it, and we are running out of time to choose.